Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, what if I told you there was a state that recently abolished red flag laws, tried to legalize short barrel rifles, and gave concealed carry reciprocity to every license holder everywhere in the United States? You'd all be saying, dang, that's pretty cool. Well, as you know, when you're a state other than Washington, you're only going to end up on our channel one of two ways. Either one, you got to do something so absolutely horribly rotten to your citizens that we just have to tell everybody about it. But occasionally, we get to talk about states that we normally don't talk about because we got to give them a big old attaboy. And that's what we get to do today. So today, let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about the state that just fortified gun rights for all its citizens. Okay, hey, before we get going too far down the road we're going down, want to let everyone know that this video is being brought to us by our good friends at Right to Bear. More information at the end of the video, but quickly, folks, I'm this close to having Right to Bear talked into letting us do another road trip, and the place we've selected, that's right, it's Texas. But Texas, I need your help. So listen, if you got a facility, if you got a range, if you got some cool location that you'd like to have Washington Gun Law and the folks at Right to Bear come by and hang out, please put some information down there in the comment section. Help us plan our road trip. We're planning this probably for late July, early August, so if you got some ideas, we will take your suggestions. Okay, America, especially for those of us that live in any one of the dirty dozen states, these ones right here, you might want to grab a napkin or a paper towel because you're going to be salivating when you hear what the state of Texas has done with their legislative session, because we're not going to talk about one really cool bill that's becoming law. No, we're actually going to talk about three really cool bills that are becoming law. Today, we're going to get y'all educated on Senate Bill 1362, Senate Bill 706, and Senate Bill 1596. All three of which have passed out of both chambers of Congress and head to Governor Abbott's desk for signature. Really cool things. Now, I will tell you that some of them are a lot cooler on its face because when you dig under it and you take a look at some other laws, I don't know if they get to do everything. And there is one law I'm a little worried that Texas may have stuck their neck out just a little bit more than they needed to, but we'll get there. We're going to start, though, with Senate Bill 1362 because it's the one that's garnered the most attention. This is known as what? That's right, the anti-red flag law. And what this bill purports to do, what this bill actually does is it bans extreme risk protection orders or red flag hearings in the state of Texas, okay? This is how the legislation reads. The state of Texas, including an agency, department, commission, bureau, board, office, council, court, or other entity that is in any branch of the state government, and the governing body of a municipality, county, or special district or authority, or any officer, employee, other body that is part of a municipality, county, or special district or authority, including a sheriff, municipal police department, municipal attorney, or county attorney, may not adopt or enforce a rule, ordinance, order, policy, or other similar measure relating to an extreme risk protective order unless state law specifically authorizes the adoption and enforcement of such a rule, ordinance, order, policy, or measure. So, in simple terms, what the statute says is that the state and every other political subdivision thereunder cannot establish and enforce extreme risk protection orders unless the state authorizes to do so. And of course, since the state is barred by this statute, it would require a repeal of this statute in order for Texas to re-implement extreme risk protection orders. Now, had you just left the bill right there, perfect, okay? But then you kind of went a little Missouri here, okay? And you went a little cavalier, and you told the federal government to go pound sand, and this is where this law could get struck down under a supremacy clause. Because, again, I get where you're coming from, all right? But then the next paragraph of the statute reads, a federal statute, order, rule, or regulation purporting to implement or enforce an extreme risk protective order against a person in this state that infringes on the person's right of due process, keeping and bearing arms, or free speech protected by the United States Constitution or the Texas Constitution is unenforceable as against the public policy of this state and shall have no effect. And again, Don't want to get too critical, but I do think you ought to take a look at Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act and how it got shot out of the sky in a paragraph that they put in there that really didn't need to be in there. And you might want to take a look at the Missouri Second Amendment Preservation Act 2.0, which shockingly now doesn't contain that language that I think could run into head on with the Supremacy Clause. But again, a clear abolishment of extreme risk protection order or red flag hearings in the state of Texas, that is Senate Bill 1362. Okay, the next bill is Senate Bill 706, and in a nutshell, what this bill does is two things. Number one, it says that if you got a concealed carry license in any of the other 49 states, that license is good in the great state of Texas, okay? Now, I believe Texas is constitutional carry, so probably not necessary, but an incredibly nice gesture. But also, I want you to understand that the legislation requires the governor to go out and seek reciprocity agreements with the other 49 states, which means the legislation requires your governor to try and negotiate reciprocity agreements so that a Texas concealed carry license would work in the other 49 states. Again, there are a bunch of states, 29 now, that are constitutional carry, so we don't even have to worry about that. But for some people, this is the only way that if they're from one state and they want to carry in this state, it's the only way it's going to get done. But again, it's a piece of legislation that is trying to expand not only the Second Amendment rights of all Texas residents, but allowing everyone who enters into the state of Texas to enjoy those same rights. It's a great piece of legislation. It is Senate Bill 706. Okay, and then finally, Senate Bill 1596, which, in a nutshell, legalizes short barrel rifles in the state of Texas. All right, but here's what it does. The current law, as we know, Texas Penal Code 46.05, which is what, Texas? That's right, that's your prohibited or unlawful weapons, currently states that certain weapons have to be registered with the ATF. That is, they have to be properly registered NFA items, which means they are on the NFRTR. The statute right now reads, a person commits an offense if the person intentionally or knowingly possesses, manufactures, transports, repairs, or sells any of the following items, unless the item is registered in the National Firearms Registration and Transfer Record maintained by the ATF, or otherwise not subject to that regulation requirement, or unless the item is classified as a curio or relic by the United States Department of Justice. And then there is this long list right here of all the items that have to be registered with the ATF or on the NFRTR. And you can see short barrel rifles clearly there, except this bill, it strikes it right there. And so that's what's happening here, okay? It strikes it, which means that under Texas state law, you do not need to have a short barrel rifle registered with the ATF, okay? But it does not negate federal law, which says that if you're gonna possess a short barrel rifle and be in compliance with federal law, that will be registered as an NFA item and it will be on the NFRTR. Oh, and by the way, Texas, if you do happen to be a person who might possess a firearm that would fall into this category, understand that the date you came into possession of that, it's going to be really critical because the statute also will read, the change in law made by this act applies only to an offense committed on or after the effective date of this act. An offense committed before the effective date of this act is governed by the law in effect on the date the offense was committed, and the former law is continued in effect for that purpose. For purposes of this section, an offense was committed before the effective date of this act if any element of the offense occurred before that date, which means if possession can be proven at some date earlier prior to the enactment of the law, you are in trouble under both federal and state law. But understand, Texas, and this is important, what this means is that you can't be held criminally liable by the state of Texas for having a short barrel rifle that's not registered with the ATF, okay? That's what it does. And again, I applaud the state of Texas. But what they cannot do and what they were not able to do and what the statute does not do is remove that requirement for federal law. So you are on notice. But listen, America, for all the times on this channel that we have to talk about some state, usually from this list right here, that's either kicking their citizens in the shins, kneeing them in the groin, or punching them in the mouth, and oftentimes all three. It is so refreshing to find a state that is not only willing to fortify its citizens' Second Amendment rights, but to actually expand them back to the point that our founding fathers actually contemplated. Okay, Texas, we're going to go ahead and link up all 3 pieces of legislation down below so that you can get all excited and everyone else can be totally jealous with envy. They are, once again, Senate Bill 1362, Senate Bill 706, and Senate Bill 1596. If you got any other questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now. But if you don't, that's okay. That information down there in the description box. If you got an idea for a video we should be doing around here, go ahead and click on that link right there and tell us all about it. If you want to subscribe to the monthly newsletter, the ability to do that is down there in the description box. And then finally, and most importantly, let's everyone remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.
Therein lies why we say in the legal defense sector that we are the most value-centered, cost-effective legal defense in the space, and we are. There's no question. Now, again, I've said before, we've got great competitors out there. They have outstanding products. We admire them. They pave the way for us. You know, we analyze the folks out there that are doing the same thing we're doing, and we took some great ideas from them, and we went down a path of believing that we were going to do it with a service aspect, a servant's heart, and we have again. Our number one goal has been to serve others first in a way that the industry hasn't seen.
Right to bear, that's right, legal protection for self-protection. Listen, good lawyers aren't cheap, cheap lawyers aren't good. You're not truly prepared unless you have right to bear back you. You will always get an attorney-answered hotline, so you will always have a confidential phone call. There are no cap limits for either civil or criminal defense. This covers all forms of self-defense. So from a fist to a firearm, from a fat lip to a dead body, you are covered, and you will have some of the nation's most passionate 2A attorneys in your corner fighting for you. And right now, if you visit my friends at protectwithbear.com and you use the promo code WGL, you will receive 10% off. Listen, you need to protect yourself so that you can protect them. Visit my good friends at protectwithbear.com.